All right, then. Here we are, Sasaki Moto. I have Gumi and Batista here with me, and we're going to talk about the quarterfinals that are about to happen. And I think we're going to discuss the matches, the top 8 matches as well. I think that's the
Yep.
plan. All righty. So, that's right. We're getting to the quarterfinals of the VDL. Here are the results of this past week. So, I guess we'll hop in and just talk about each match. Gumi, do you want to talk about your match? You got the 2-1 victory over the Drowsy Drake results?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll talk about it. So, um, basically last week you guys had the power rankings, and I really didn't like my matchup into Masenko's team. And so if you watch the match, I kind of just had as many techs as I could possibly fit into my team. And so game one, basically what happened was he just did a really good job getting Trick Room up. I kind of overthought, I think, at the beginning. So I had two taunt users, and I kind of just I overthought, and instead of going for a taunt to try and stop Trick Room from getting up, I didn't go for a taunt on the right mon. So um, some of that happened, and I think game one I was just trying to get accustomed to the flow. Um, so I lost game one pretty easily, to be honest. Um, and then game two I brought out some more of the tech. So one of the things I had was Sunny Day Garchomp and Life Orb Magmortar with Solar Beam, Flamethrower, and Scorching Sands. So I decided I was going to lead that game one or game two, and it just did a lot into a Striker mode. It was doing 90% to Dusknoir. Actually, even through window, Solar Beam had a chance, depending on his bulk, to KO his Gastrodon. And so game two, I did a really good job of maneuvering through Trick Room, and I brought my room service Ditto. And so because of that, he did actually get Trick Room up, but I was able to bring in my room service Ditto. I stalled out his Trick Room pretty easily, and then swept in the back with Magmortar. And so I won game two. Game three was pretty crazy. So I led Magmortar Garchomp, and he went for Stack Attack Lopunny. And I had a special Garchomp and a Life Orb, and a Life Orb Magmortar with Scorching Sand. So according to Calcs, both an Earth Power from Garchomp and a Scorching Sands from Magmortar KO'd Stack Attack. So I just went for that, and it KO'd. And from there, I just kind of got the win easily. One thing I will say is that even though I thought my matchup was hard at first, I realized that Masenko had a lot of item pressure on his team because he had stuff like Dusknoir and Stack Attacka, and I did have a lot of taunt. So he had to say, okay, where's my mental herb? Am I going to bring a Shuka Berry? I probably shouldn't bring a Shuka Berry because, Garchomp's physical Stack Attack until you hit, right? So there was a lot of factors like that where even though I thought my matchup was bad, Masenko had some crazy item pressure. And that's really what hurt him at the end because he said he was planning on going to Air Balloon on his Stack Attacka, and then he switched it to Mental Herb. And that big decision of where are my items made a massive impact on the game.
I didn't realize that's what he was running. When I watched that match, I was curious of what the Stack Attack was going to do. 'Cause, after seeing your sets, I was worried for Misenko when I saw the stack come out because I thought it was a really bad matchup in your team,
Mm-hmm.
or for at least what you brought. Um, and it was interesting that you kind of got beat down game one, and you don't have comms like every match you play, but
Yeah.
like this time you seem just like really on edge, like you just like hardwire focused and nervous, and like you wanted to win so bad, and it just I don't know. You're able to analyze it mid match. It kind of changed up the game plan, and then by game three, you just pretty much won on turn one almost. So went from losing game one to pretty dominant game three. Uh,
Yeah.
I really liked. I thought the Magmortar bring was like insanely like that was a perfect set to bring. Like the Heat Wave, Scorching Sands, Solar Beam covered almost everything, and then I really liked the pressure that the Aggron put on. I think that was my favorite strengths from your team. Um, I think that yeah, the stack for the Dracozolt did not look good, but and the Gastrodon was nice. It was just hard with the Solar Beam Magmortar.
Mhm.
Um, but I could see how Masenko's team was really difficult to prep for, and I don't know, maybe the game goes differently if he has Shuka Berry. Who knows?
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. And sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead.
Yeah, um, I lost my thought. Sorry.
Does Batista have it? Do you have Gumi's thought?
Well, so one thing I think that I took away from the game is I feel like Masenko's lead game 2 and 3 dramatically led to their loss. I feel like if they had a better lead either of those two games, they probably could have gotten there. Because game two, well, game one or game 3, we talked about Stack Attack dying and they didn't get trigger ups. Game two, um, it was Desknor, Amoongus lead, and they
Mm,
decided to. I can't remember what they decided to do with Amoongus, but they didn't Rage Powder with it. And Dusknor took a Sunny Day flamethrower from Magmortar, was able to just barely survive, but then died from burn damage. And I definitely feel like Dusknor was significantly more important Pokemon than Amoongus in this matchup.
mm,
And so I felt like that was a pretty bad lead. Like how it ended up led was a bad for them because after that their only damage output was really Gastrodon.
yeah.
And Gastrodon though is pretty good Pokemon, it's not going to be able to beat the offense of Gumi's team. And so I definitely felt like they needed the Dusknor significantly more than they needed the Mungus. And then game 3, obviously, they led the Lopunny and Stack Attack and were both in front of two Pokemon that could one shot Stack Attack. And so I definitely felt like, if they would have led kind of what their led game 1, which was Lopunny Dusknor, I feel like they might have been able to have a more fighting chance into game 2 or game 3.
Mhm.
And not sure if there was like a specific reason in their mind, but I definitely felt like that was where my biggest thought was. That I think they lost the set.
Yeah, for sure. So what I was going to say, what I forgot about, was really that Aggron set, which honestly probably one of the favorite sets I've ever brought. So, I had Rock Blast just in case of a Sash Bombi, right? And like, I thought he was going to go for Trick Room, but I could see Speed Swap, so I just wanted that in case. I had Taunt, and then I had Iron Defense Body Press, which could Oko Stack Attack after an Iron Defense. So, um, yeah, I really like that set. And another thing I want to note was I was incredibly nervous. Like, and as you said, looking at my comms, you know, game after game 2, I literally had to stop and just breathe and just like not think about the game and just breathe because I was incredibly nervous. So yeah, I think it was definitely a fun match, definitely tense. And I thought Masenko played pretty well game 1, and um, yeah, I thought I made some good adjustments and was able to take the set. So
Well, again, congrats. A big fight from the Dragozolts, who had a pretty good season, honestly, overall. Pretty dang good season with a team that a lot of people doubted at the beginning. So, props to
yeah,
them. I'd be proud. Um, I haven't seen their the team analysis, postseason team analysis video yet, but I'm curious to see what Masenko says about his team, because it's an interesting team. Um, I guess we could talk about the next matchup. Um, the Gurchins, they lose 2-0 to the Whalers. The Whalers are hot postseason.
yep.
I did not get to watch this one.
Oh, okay. Well, but you said, did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I think I guess kind of start with the second game because that's kind of the one that I remember the most. It kind of ended up becoming this pretty interesting set where kind of well so Rapidash was definitely the big component with Choice Scarf, Rapidash, Flare Blitz in the Sun because of Torkoal setting up the Sun was able to kind of do massive damage into um, the Gurchin's team. So that was definitely the big, I think, takeaway from that. I think even out of the Sun, I think it one shot Decidueye on, I want to say turn one, but it might have been turn two, um, which was a huge deal. I think the game one, there were Kafka Rodriguez kind of took control. It had what's it called? Was it
Was it Nasty Puck?
Amnesia? No, 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 it wasn't
No,
Nasty.
Amnesia. It was
Calm
Amnesia.
Mind,
Yeah.
Calm Mind, Calm
Oh yeah.
Mind.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. So Calm Mind, Shadow Ball, leftover set, and it was
Mhm.
just really hard for them to deal with because that just did incredible amount of damage into their team. And then it was just kind of hard for them to break its wall. And so that's kind of the game one set was, kind of positioning in the early games, um, and I think a Dragon Dance on the Flygon, which was able to then outspeed Inteleon and kill it. Um, and game one was definitely very interactive. There was some trick room with Aromatease and Kafka Rodriguez, and it ended up coming down to like a pretty strong out game. But then game two definitely was like a very quick, you know, Crobat comes out, Rapidash comes out, um, Choice Scarf, Flare Blitz stuff. I don't know. I think the Copper Grisek was definitely the big tech into that. The Zapdos I think was a mixed attacker, which definitely was a little bit surprising. With I think Wild Charge and I can't remember what it was another a
It was
different
dual wing
attack.
beat, right?
Dual Wing Beat. Oh yeah, Dual Wing Beat for the Choice Scarf on the Mian Shao.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this was a really well prepped game from Matrix. I feel like that was something he did really well. Obviously, that combined Kafgrugas. He had the Scarf Rapidash, which put in so much work. Um, and so he prepped really well. And in game one, I felt it was definitely a really close game one. Um, and it came to the point where it was a 2v1 in the Gershon's favor, but that Combine Kafagurius was able to take the game, was really really impressive. So incredible game by Matrix, and then game two, he got the lucky crit on the Miastic, and after that it just kind of um, went down. But even the Miastic would have taken like tons of damage. He had the Scarf on Rapidash, and so yeah, he really positioned himself incredibly well on both games, and played to his outs, and did a really good job. Took a nice 2-0 against someone who started out 5-0. So,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
was a really
oh,
solid set.
oh yeah, and I forgot the cool tech of Choice Scarf Meowstick,
Yeah,
which I'm assuming was designed probably to one shot Crobat with Psychic was my guess.
that's what I
Um,
assumed. Yeah.
and so be able to like prevent the Tailwind from going up. But I think it ended up being awkward in the fact that the Rapidash's Choice Scarf outsped the Meowstick's Choice Scarf, which was
Hmm.
definitely a really big downside in how the game turned out.
Yeah, and overall, like fire coverage looks really solid against Zam's team, right? So, because you have that Torkoal in the Sun, there's just really not a lot of things on his team that resist it. Zam also really likes Decidueye for some reason. So, like it really was a good bring against that type of stuff. So, yeah, it was actually a really smart choice here for Abdash. But yeah, I think the choice here for Meowstick would have been good, especially against Crobat. But it didn't actually seem to have much damage output against any of his other mons, right? And so, it came there both games and just didn't do much, right? And so, was a cool bring, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I definitely think that's kind of where I think it was a bring that seems like a like there's definitely the Gurchins had some very interesting and good tech that ended up not matching up to the straight like the different tech that we expect like that we saw from the Wellwords kind of that's kind of the idea is like they brought some things that are a little bit different than they normally bring and ended up just not working out for them like like we said it was like the choice scarf physical Zapdos they had you know the Intellion they brought, which ended up not doing as much work. Like they definitely had some cool things, but yeah, I think it just kind of didn't match up well. The Cofagrigus was phenomenal, and then yeah,
Hmm.
and and Matrix was able to get the 2-0.
Yep, for sure.
Well, I know Matrix was nervous this season about fighting for playoffs and not doing as well as he wanted to, but hey, Matrix, you're in top 4, baby. So
And 2-0s against two of like the best regular season performing players. Like
yep,
that's incredible.
yep. This is quite the run already for the Whale Lords, and they might continue. I don't know. I think Matrix has been called
Probably.
out by several people as being a sleeper team. Not to put pressure on him, but it's been called out as being a definitely a team that could win it all this season.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
well, I guess we can hop into my match then. Discussion about my match. Um, there is too much to say about this match, honestly, from my perspective. But I'm not going to touch about everything. We each had a Doug trio. We each had a Galarian Bird. We each had Weather. It was first glance looked like a pretty crazily similar matchup, but long story short, we both brought our weather modes. Our weather modes threatened Pokemon on each other's team. They were obvious brings. Maybe not the rain mode as much as the ice, but the ice mode was just such a threat to my team, and
Mm.
it was such a threat. Freeze Dry just roasts my entire team, and you know, sure, I really need the Poliwrath for some physical damage in the close combats on, Hydreigon, Persian, um, the Arctozolt, because Arctozolt was a big problem. But at the same time, Goomer has, Zapdos pretty much one-shots Poliwrath. Freeze Dry chunks it from either his Pokemon. Moonblast chunks it. Bolt Beak destroys it. Even Orbeetle can probably do a ton of damage to it. Tangle is a problem for it. It was hard to position. This is definitely a game of positioning, and it was a weather war. It was fun. I think both the matches this season that were the most weather war-esque were two of the most fun matches I had. So, yeah, I guess I'm not going to break down the matchup because there's just too much to talk about. But game one, Goomer just straight up leads Hail, and oddly enough, I prepped a bunch for him to lead Hail, but then I just didn't expect him to do it. And then he did it, but which was a very big surprise to me. And then so he had the nice. I just went for the close combat on the Arctozolt, and he switched in the Gyarados for the Intimidate and soaked up that hit. I'm trying to think what else happened in that game. It was just pretty much a game of slow positioning. What's
I
that?
was gonna say, I think that was where the Bronzong got flinched by the waterfall. Was I think the big turning point of game one.
Yeah. I think if the Bronzong doesn't get flinched, I think I'm in pretty good position there. But and I think the Gyarados got a crit earlier. I don't know if that really mattered though. But it put me in a really awkward position where, and this is the crazy part because I know Goomer too, and I know how the things he can look into and the reads he'll make. There's so many moments during this match where I felt like it was a 50-50 to turn the tide of the game, like the whole time. So we get into like turn one, I felt like I could go for like a meteor beam into the Arctozolt, like predicting that he might switch out or something. But I don't, and I go for the close combat. But he does switch out into Gyarados. It was just a misplay on my part, I guess you could say, but really just kind of a 50-50. Then later in the game, Arctozolt's sitting out there with like a 1 HP Gyarados. I thought it was very obvious that I was going to go for the close combat. And I thought that Goomer would recognize that if he protects Arctozolt and switches into Ninetales, he's actually in a pretty decent position. And so I tried to read into that. So I went for the read. And I didn't go for the Arctozolt, but he didn't end up protecting. He just bolt baked me. So he took that game decisively after that one. And then game two, I went with the screens Raikou, which was like the must for my team in this matchup, I think. And that Specs Hydreigon was hitting hard, but luckily I had the light screen. I forget really what happened during that game. I think that's when I revealed the Hypnosis Gardevoir. Maybe that was game 1. I can't even remember. So I
Yeah,
had a
Gardevoir was game 1.
Yeah.
so Gardevoir setup was really strange, and it's one I really liked. I think Gardevoir was like sort of a key player in the matchup because it really threatens the Zapdos and the Hydreigon. And I regret not running Energy Ball for the Swampert. That's something I was debating and I didn't do it. But I had like a Hypnosis Blunder policy set, so the idea was like I could threaten things with Moonblast, like I could hit things with Moonblast, but I could also just throw out a Hypnosis if I felt safe. And like if I got someone asleep, that's great. I get them, they go to sleep. That's fantastic. If I miss, then I pretty much am faster than every other Pokemon in the set, and I can go for stuff like fast Encores and Destiny Bonds and be really really annoying.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to bring a Hypnosis Blunder policy set for like 3 seasons, and I felt like it actually looked pretty good here, but didn't end up doing that much, except putting a couple Pokemon to sleep.
Yeah, it was funny that it didn't miss, despite you having blunder policy just in case.
Yeah, there were a couple moments where I'm like, man, would this just miss, dude? I want this speed control. Because game 3, I got put in a position where, like, I had the Raikou out there within KO range, and I thought that Goomer would maybe read into a. So basically, both my Gardevoir and my Raikou within high horsepower range, and I thought that Goomer was going to make the read that I would switch out Raikou or Volt Switch or either one into Bronzong. I thought he was going to go into the Gardevoir, so I went for the Destiny Bond. I revealed it, and then he didn't go for it. I think if that tech happens, I think I win that game. I'm not sure, but I revealed it, and it didn't work. And those kind of tech, I guess the story of this matchup to me was I kind of had to go for some sneaky stuff because the longer the games go and the more we can reposition, I feel like it benefits Goomer's team more. Because he has a lot of switch-ins that are pretty safe for him, whereas I don't. I have no switch-ins for Bolt Beak except for Raikou. My only switch-in for Freeze Dry is Bronzong, and those I kind of have to keep those mons alive because they do a lot. So I try to go for some spicy stuff, like Hypnosis and Encore and stuff, but it just didn't end up working. And then Goomer reveals his Encore with the Ninetales, which pretty much just sealed up the game. So he did a really good job of like positioning himself well and revealing tech at certain times. I thought it was just so close. It was a lot of fun. I don't know. What do you? I could talk about it for a while because I've reflected on the match a bunch. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll say that like game 1, I started watching. I was like, oh, Goomer just let hail, and I was like, I don't know what Saki does here. Like, there was a bunch of things you could do, but he played really well around around rain, especially game 1. And so even though there was the waterfall flinch, I still felt like he could have gone either way. And he did do a really good job with that Gyarados, and just maneuvering around rain game 1. And then it was I don't exactly recall what happened in game 3, but I just remember I just remember game 1 actually. So yeah.
Well, game 3, I think Goomer has really been liking Amnesia for some reason in recent history, and it was an Amnesia Swampert with leftovers.
Yep, it was vicious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Saki decided to basically didn't bring his physical attacker, and so it was just incredibly hard to deal with. At some point, he switched out, I think, a +6 special defense Swampert. I was so surprised when Goomer did it, but because it was just, I'm like, I don't see how the Swampert dies at this point because the only physical damage you had was a body press on the Bronzong.
I think he was for most of the game. I think he was +2, and then he may have gotten up to +4. But I was actually surprised to see that switch out as well. But I think if I watched his game, and I think what I recall him saying is because it was burned and he had switched to Ninetales, and I think he just didn't want it to get chipped down too much.
Oh yeah, I think it was burned and intimidated that turn.
Yeah, it was intimidated,
when he switched
yeah.
out because of the Gardevoir Tracy and Intimidate.
Oh yeah.
Which was
But
actually a big deal for me. Like every time I switched in Gardevoir, it traced that Intimidate from the Gyarados, which was very lucky for me. That really worked out well in my favor.
because yeah, I think both times you traced, it was in front of uh, double physical attackers on their team as
Yeah,
well.
I think so. I think it was. Yeah, that worked really nice. I think it was. Yeah. So that Trace Gardevoir has been super useful in this season. Super useful. The Swampert sitting on the field was a nightmare, and at that time I really regretted not bringing Energy Ball because I had
Yeah.
I had a few Pokemon on my team where it's like, man, I want to bring like 8 moves, and I just can't decide on what to bring because if I bring Encore, I can stop pretty much make it awkward anytime he wants to set up with Tangela, Orbeetle, Swampert. And then, Destiny Bond I thought would have been a sneaky tech with the Blunder Policy because it threatened his team. I knew he knows it threatens his team, so I figured I could bust it out in a moment where I'm fast and it'll catch him off guard and it could win me something. But yeah, it didn't do. I thought about encoring him into the Amnesia, but I'm like, I don't even know if I want that. That's a +6 special defense Swampert. I have no physical attackers. I don't like this.
Yeah, that reminds me of earlier in the season where I encored a Turtonator into Iron Defense. Did not end up well.
Those it's hard. It's hard. But yeah, I really regretted not running the energy ball, and then that Swampert was just. I mean, it was a really nice bring because my team is so specially, it's oriented. So
Yeah.
and he didn't even have to necessarily run a sneaky whirlpool set or anything. He just had. It was really nice. He just set up the one Amnesia, and then he could just sit on the field and attack with liquidations and high horsepowers. And I thought that was a really nice bring on his part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really solid, and definitely I think definitely the reason he won Game 3 was it was an incredible set.
Yeah, I feel like there were just a lot of moments where I'm like, man, if I can just make this play, make this read, or call the correct play, I can win this game. And it was just, there's so many times I thought I had him, and he just didn't let me escape.
Yeah.
He made a lot of good. I think he played really well. The better the Doug Bros, this season. So, yeah, I thought it was a lot of stuff he brought was really nice.
Yeah. No, one of the things I think was so interesting is I feel like very frequently you're like, this is the obvious play. I'm going to assume that Goomer's not going to make this play. And then every time you had that thought process, Goomer made the obvious play and you got punished. And it was
Yeah.
it was very funny seeing that because I'm like, I'm not sure if Goomer's just doing the obvious play or if he's like next leveling your next level. It's like I don't know how far along Goomer's actually doing it.
It was crazy because we talked a bunch after the match, and he was saying, like, man, there were just some reads. He's like, I almost because I didn't know he had Protect on the Arctazol. And so I was like, man, I think he has it, so I won't go for him. Like game 1, and he said it later. He told me he's like, I almost clicked that Protect and went for that play. And then going for with the Swampert as well. He's like, man, I almost high horsepowered that Gardevoir to get rid of it. Like I was very close to doing that. And those are just game changing plays. It's crazy thinking like. Watching back, and I'm like, Goomer, just click it, just click it. I mean, I already know what happened, but I'm just thinking, like, please go for this. But he just, I don't know. He didn't know what to expect, but he just made, and I feel like he's done that a lot this season where he's just like, I don't know if he knows he's doing, but he just makes really good plays to reposition and not get caught off guard.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was really nice. But I went for some stuff. I thought that's what I needed. I thought I needed to go for some of those sets, and
Yeah, for sure.
I just went for it, and it didn't work out. And Goomer, the Swampert was insane. The Arctazol, the Hail mode was nice. I mean, the Swampert literally, and actually, I thought the Gyarados was really, really nice in the matchup for him. I didn't expect it to be so useful, but yeah, I thought it was really, really nice. Great, like the ultimate switch into my Poliwrath. It made it really awkward. So, very hard match, very fun match, but congrats to Goomer. Moving on. I guess we can hop into, we'll talk about the next match, which is a duo of people that know each other. Sun Warriors take on the Royal Kingdras, and they won 2-0. Chad kind of he's been on fire, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It's like a 6-game winning streak now, right?
As
I
far
think
as
so.
as far as matches, I think I don't know about games, but as far as matches, I think he's on like a 7. I think it's 7 now.
That's crazy. Yeah, he played very, very well in this set. We talked a little bit beforehand because he actually didn't like this matchup a lot. But I will say I feel like even though Tauros got like 0 kills, it did a lot of work. Like it did a lot of work because he had Intimidate Tauros, which was big against stuff like Beartick, and then he had a high horsepower and he had Wild Charge, and both of those were incredible, super effective damage against Jolteon and Pelipper. And what happened game 1 is he got in a position where he just went for a free Wild Charge on the Pelipper. It brought it down to its stash, and then he was able to get rid of Pelipper very easily. And after that, it just opened the field for Umbreon to just win the game, get a bunch of KOs. In game 2, it was kind of similar. It really was about getting Pelipper out of the way. He had a really cool Calm Mind Tapu Lele, and it did really well against Landorus because when you look at Chad's team, Landorus looks really good, especially something like a Scarf Landorus, for example. And so he had that Calm Mind. He was able to take a couple of hits, and it lived some pretty crazy stuff and just O-code almost everything. And so he got a couple KOs and just blew the field open, and he took a clean 2 games.
Any thoughts, Batista?
So yeah, I don't know. So game 2, I think is I'll start with that one because it was a very strange game. It was like a very drawn out, slow game where Tauros basically just consistently clicked Icy Wind over and over and over again, and which Tauros has terrible special attacks. So the Isolans were doing almost no damage, but what ended up happening was the speed control was such a relevant thing that the Kingdras felt like they couldn't do anything except switch out. And so they kept on kind of getting switching out and protecting and things like that because the icy winds were getting the speed control and then Tapu Fini got I think 1 or 2 combines off and so they couldn't do much damage to the Tapu Lele and they couldn't switch in the main threat to the Tapu Lele, which is Landorus, because 4 times super effective ice damage also lowering its speed. And so it kind of just got into the situation where the Kingdras never felt like they had a good position at a single point in the entirety of the game, even though the game was like 20 turns. And it was almost exclusively based off of the Taurus Icy Wind, and then the Tapu Lele had with the Calm Mind boost. I think it was paralyzed, so it was a little bit like inconsistent, but that's kind of how that went. And then game 1 was a little bit more back and forth a little bit more as you'd expect with like some weather fighting with the Pelipper and the Ninetales. But I agree with Gumi, where I definitely think that once Pelipper went down, it was kind of downhill from the Kingdra side, and I don't think they had much of a way to deal with the Ninetales, especially like the Umbreon in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to say this match, I'm just lost for words. Mainly because I didn't see the match. So, but I was actually really excited to see these two face off. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. All right, I guess we can move on to the top 4 matchups.
Sounds good.
And my prediction of all 2-1s this week did not come true. So we got the semi.
It was a lot closer than the previous week, though.
It's true.
Yeah, it was.
We got the semi-final. Hey, I did my part getting my 1-2 loss, okay?
Yeah, I did my part getting my 2-1 win.
Okay, so we got one matchup up on the top, and then the second matchup here on the bottom. We're dwindling down the teams. Many teams trying to take the crown, the VDL Season 6 crown. So the Warriors. I completely said that wrong. The matchups were not. Just forget what I said in the last slide.
It's vertical. That's side.
Yeah, it was
side,
vertical.
side.
It was vertical. Yeah.
Vertical, not horizontal. Yeah.
Yep. So we got the Sun Warriors gonna take on the Bashers. This is gonna be crazy. Chad, new to the league, obviously very good player. He's been on fire. I think it's 7 matches in a row he's won. Goomer, obviously. I mean, he just you can never count him out, and he has a good team that can. It's a deep team. He can bring anybody on his team. That's what's so hard to prep about it. This is like sort of a clash of the Titans in a sort of a new way. It's probably the hottest or the most successful new player this season, Chad, who's been dominating, and then Goomer who is historically one of the VDL's best. This is going to
Chad's
be
the
a
only
showdown.
remaining new player.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the only noob left.
So only noob. So this is going to be. I mean, what I just said about Goomer's team, Sun Warriors, that you could say similarly. Like they just have a really deep team, and it's hard to know. It's hard to look at their team and be like, oh yeah, they're going to bring these 6. Like maybe you'll get like 4 or 5 correct, but I feel like it's really hard to know exactly which 6 they're bringing, and there's just a lot of things that you have to prep for. And if you leave anything out, like an Umbreon, a Calm Mind Lele, you'd leave something like that out, you don't prep for it, it could do big damage to you. So, or annoy the heck out of you. So, I don't know. What do we think about this matchup?
I will say Clash of the Ninetales, right? We got
Right. Oh yeah.
Ninetales on one side, Ninetales Alola on the other side. One thing is like off the bat, I would be like, oh, a Sun team beats a Hail team. But what's interesting is Chad's only, I guess, Sun abuser other than Ninetales is Executor, right? And that doesn't exactly have super effective damage against Ninetales and Arctozolt. So, that's going to be interesting because you have like Taurus Intimidate, but and Luxury Intimidate, which is really solid on Chad's side. But I also feel like Hail can kind of go in here if done right because has good damage against stuff like Corviknight. So yeah, this is gonna be. I mean, I will say like I want another Weather War. Like that's kind of what I'm going for. It's always fun seeing Weather Wars. So that's the main thing that I'm looking out for, in terms of Mons.
I think it will be another Weather War.
One of the things that I kind of looking the thing I noticed the most is that Tapu Lele looks really good into the Bashers. Like the only Pokemon that seems like like just type wise that's particularly good at it against is the Doug Trio, which is not the most exciting Pokemon to bring, especially into a team that has like Nidoking and Ninetales to threaten it. But maybe it is pretty good. But that Tapu Lele does seem very good in my opinion, and the Sun Warriors have definitely been using that Pokemon significantly amount and have definitely showed that they can do a lot of work with that Pokemon specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like I definitely think that they both are going to have to bring their weather, and I definitely think that that does something. The Alola Ninetales being a little bit faster is probably helpful in that aspect because I imagine there's going to be good situations where they're both on the field at the same time. But also it being faster can also make the weather not hell. So it's definitely going to be an interesting match. I definitely, am curious to kind of see the ways in which the Bashers kind of decide to deal with the Tapu Lele and make sure while still making sure they have answers to Pokemon like Umbreon, which are really hard, to deal with in the general sense, because it's like, okay, like Zapdos is a good answer to Umbreon, but also like gets kind of walled by Tapu or gets killed by the Tapu Lele really easily. And so you definitely kind of need that situation where, you have to be able to deal with their offensive threats while being able to deal with their super bulky Pokemon in the back.
Yeah, for sure.
This one's going to be good. I just know it. I'm
really excited for this match.
Okay. The next match. Look
Ugh.
who it is. It's the Pretzels taking on Matrix. This is going to be insane. I mean, I've said this before, but Matrix's team, it's just super hard to deal with up front.
Yep.
It's just almost impossible. He drafted a really nice team. He has inner focus fake out. He has other ways of fake out. He has a fake out immune trick room setter who's very bulky. He has a fake out immune tailwind setter who's extremely fast. Um, it's and then he's got like bulky threats like Tapafini you got to worry about, and he's used the Steelix really well. I don't know. His team is just very hard to deal with up front. Gumi, I think. I think at the same time, I think you have a lot of you have a lot of offense when you are able to like get in position to do things like you showed with the Mag Mortar last set. Like the guard chomp has shown to be extremely versatile. I'm curious to see what set you bring this time. I don't know. What do you think about your matchup?
Yeah, so I think it's garbage. I think it's rigged. The live draw was a recording.
Wombo!
But I will say, like, in terms of dynamic, I think it's really interesting because we both have some solid fast stuff, right? He obviously has a very fast team. He has like 6 mods, base 100 or up, something crazy like that. I obviously have a lot of term speed control. I got tailwind, I got rain, I got speed boost. So I have a lot of stuff like that. At the same time, there is also some decent fast mode. He has Steelix, but I do have some like Vikavolt or Aggron. So in terms of dynamic, I think it is going to be a kind of cool set.
Whoop.
I know Matrix tends to lean towards Flygon a little bit. I tend to lean towards Garchomp a little bit. So you may have a battle of the dragons. So there's going to be things like that where even though I think this matchup is trash, worst matchup I could have gotten. I think it'll be kind of cool in terms of dynamic, and I think I'll be able to bring it close, at the very least.
I think it'll
I don't know,
definitely.
looking
I think it'll be close for sure.
I was gonna say, looking at your team, I can definitely say that you know, you, it doesn't seem like you have the best way to deal with the Tapu Fini. The Tapu Fini looks very good into your team. Your Steel Pokemon, or your Electric Pokemon is Vikavolt, which is kind of is the biggest threat to it. But they do have Raichu um, with Lightning Rod. And so that's kind of your biggest threat into it. So it definitely seems a little bit tricky on that aspect. And then obviously you don't have double check, but I'm pretty sure you don't have any ghost Pokemon or fake out immune Pokemon, and they have triple fake out, I believe. And that definitely doesn't help either. So I can definitely see why you think it's a hard matchup, and I definitely can agree with that. And even your standard like torn chomp bleed that you always like. They do have an ice Pokemon that's relatively fast that also has Ice Shard, and they also have Fake Out, which can kind of just make that a little bit annoying. So I definitely hope that you have some spicy tech and are able to kind of overcome some of this stuff. But uh, I definitely wouldn't want to be in your position, Gumi.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. you know, I love the Power Kings because every single week now in playoffs, I come here and I'm like, man, this matchup is worse than I thought it was 2 minutes ago. So, yeah, it'll be a fun match. And fun fact, me and Matrix have never played. We've been in like 5
Wow.
leagues together. We've done a bunch of stuff, but we have never played. Period. So, in terms of us knowing each other, how we play, I think we've seen a lot of each other's games. We kind of know what's up, but we have never ever played each other. And so yeah, I guess this is a match that I think is anticipated, and we'll see how it goes. If I'll move on or if I'll get wrecked by Matrix. So
Hey, on the bright side, if you lose, we won't say it's because you choked.
I don't know, but I might choke this one. I don't know about that, Batista. You may have cursed me.
Don't get
No, no. In actuality, I can definitely see some pathways to victory, from your side. I'm just giving you a little bit hard because I know you like to be motivated by us saying that you have terrible matchup.
Yeah,
you don't want to get rolled when you're going for the gold,
exactly.
because then you'll be salty.
Yeah, I might be salty after this match. We'll see.
All right. Do we have anything else? Anything else after
I don't
this?
think so.
No, I think that's it.
I think that's the end of the slides. All right, then. That's the end of the power rankings, or I guess whatever these videos are called, playoff analysis videos.
Yeah.
Anything else to say? Good luck to everybody.
Yep. I mean, extra luck to me, please.
Yes, go on. Yeah. So to Gumi specifically, give us a good match. We all like seeing you do well, especially because you can. It's always amusing to hear you gloat.